Well, we're live to review the first ODI between India and Australia. Not exactly the kind of result we would have hoped for, but I guess, we are sort of supposed to nitpick. Then, yeah, come se come, this was a more, respectful defeat, so to say. But still, yeah, still a defeat nonetheless. Australia, of course, being Australia, they were just comprehensive. That batting unit, I mean, something we've spoken about as well, that, when it comes to Australia, the kind of batters they possess, the kind of batting lineup they have, any target would be shot. And yeah, 285 is what Australia ended up with. Of course, 283 being the target. And by the way, this is also the highest target any team has been able to chase down in India in ODIs. So yeah, that's not a bad feat at all to achieve in the first ODI, especially given the fact that they were coming from a fairly disappointing loss, so to say, in the only test that they played 3 days ago. Yeah, we've of course got Chomi, we've got Nehan. Unfortunately, I'm sort of trying to catch a breath here. Bangalore traffic, unfortunately, once again failed me today. I was hoping to be in time, to have a 10 o'clock start. Not to be the case, and this despite me not even using any of those road transport. But yeah, anyways, Chomi, let's start with you. How do you think today, how was today's performance? Let's begin with that in terms of the defeat, because we know how India performed in South Africa. That's something we're trying to forget right now. Maybe a better performance, so to say, in Mumbai.
Yes, definitely. I mean, definitely a good consolation there. Now, when it comes to this particular performance, of course, Australia reached that target without even breaking a sweat. That's something we have to give it to them. India, though we lost, we were always the underdogs here, but at the same time, I think we have a lot of positives to take away from this match. Especially, we faltered in the beginning. We kind of came back with the batting, that entire reconstruction. I think there's a lot of positives that we can really take away from that. So yeah, we will stick to the positives, and we will hope that we can level the series in the next one.
Yep. Can't help but look at Avnish's comment here. He says you shouldn't have walked home. Of course, he knows what my mode of transport is. I do try walking back home, but yeah, today probably wasn't one of those days. But yeah, man, you win some, you lose some, like Avnish likes to say, to be honest. But before I go to Neha, let's just have the match summary here in front of us. Yeah, there we go. 282 is what India ended up with. Jemmy, of course, playing a fantastic hand with that 77 ball 82. Jemmy in the ODI format hadn't really had the greatest of years in 2022. 5 innings at an average of 4.8 is how she had ended last year. This year, she wanted to correct that. In fact, she'd also spoken about how disappointed she was for not being able to make it to the 2022 ODI World Cup. So yeah, definitely, not a bad comeback at all. Pooja Vastrakar, that's definitely going to be the highlight of the game for me. A fantastic performance. There's 62 not out of 46. We've always known that she's a proper hitter of the ball, but she'd never really come up with an impactful performance. Nothing like this, especially in the ODI format. So great to watch her go all guns blazing. Nyastika Bhatia also came good for us today, and that's also going to be another point we will be discussing in detail, because we know how inconsistent Shafali has been, something we've spoken about even in the preview. Neha, let's sort of start with that. We've spoken, in depth about, Shafali's inconsistent performances and how, this could potentially be a do or die situation for her in terms of, her spot in the 11. Now that, Yastika has not done a bad job at all, when Smriti comes back in, do you see Shafali probably making the way out for her?
Yeah, I mean, today, the manner in which Shefali Varma got out was quite disheartening, right? Now, in the absence of her left-handed partner, Smriti Mandhana, I expected her to take, more responsibility and add some weight to that wicket of hers. But the moment she just gave it away, I was like, oh no. Shefali just let go of another opportunity, and critics will, come right back at her to, question, like, why did you give your wicket away that easily? Now, when you look at the other end of the spectrum, you have Yastika Bhatia, who played brilliantly today, I believe, because, coming in the place of Smriti Mandhana, scoring that crucial knock of 49, although she's taking some time to, get going and, figure out the conditions and everything, and also kind of bat through the whole Aussie package of good balls and everything. I could really see how we saw a different aspect to her. Like, she is giving you that ODI template batting style as well. So in that sense, Yastika has really made a case for herself. And even when Smriti comes back, I think it might be really, really difficult for Shefali to hold on to her place, unless we'll have to see what happens in the second ODI now. But for now, Yastika has, kind of sealed her place, and she is looking quite formidable, I'd say.
Fair enough. Show me you can. I mean, you know what Neha said right now. Swapnil also said, I mean, ask us, should Shafali be excluded in the ODI format? This is something even I'd mentioned during the preview that, the last 18 to 24 months, so to say, have not really been the greatest for Shafali across formats, but in particular in ODIs, she's been very inconsistent. Do you think there's a case to be made, for Shafali to probably face the axe in this format?
Uh, Rather than Shafali facing the axe, I would rather talk about, as Neha mentioned, about how Yastika really took up that opportunity. Uh, she played some brilliant shots. She showed a lot of intent, especially, she started off with that with a few fours. There were three back-to-back fours that she had hit, which were absolutely beautiful to look at. Of course, the way she kind of got out was a little shame because it was a full toss ball and she could have hit it in a different manner. Of course, I don't know what's with sweeps and the love for the sweeps for this for this Indian entire gang. But yeah, I I really feel that Yastika made a difference. And she has made a very strong case for herself. Now, what might go against Shifali is the fact that Shifali has been looked upon as a power hitter, but now the way we are seeing this India team, think tank thinking is they have tried to promote Richa Ghosh up at three today, which clearly shows an intent that they might be looking at a power hitter at three, which is a great thing to do. I mean, it's a great place for Richa to be. Also, we have seen Richa do the keep the wickets. So I think Yastika and Richa have made a very strong case for themselves. So when Smriti comes back, I think definitely there will be some amount of repercussions that will come on Shefali.
That's actually a fantastic point you made there, Shomi, because we saw Richa being promoted. We'd seen that even in the test that happened a few days ago. But in the ODIs, that was something I wasn't expecting. But come to think of it, if, in the likelihood that Smriti and Yastika open, Richa would be a perfect number three to have because, Yastika is someone who likes to take her time. She is that perfect anchor material, so to say. Smriti is someone who likes to take her time, but she also has the gears that she can switch later on. And Richa then comes in, with that proper aggression from the get-go, Wali Ladki, so someone who can sort of complement perfectly your opening combination. So that would be a very potent duo to have, at the top. Let's just take Fantasy Cricket Pros comment here. Hello, Viren. He says, while Yastika looks stable, the kind of impact Richa had in that short cameo, do we feel she can take that opening slot of Shefali, especially if she's the sole keeper in the side? Geez, that's okay. Those are some, big words, so to say, because again, Ekto Yastika is there. She's also there as a keeping option as well, if needed, of course. Do you think Richa can open Neha? Because Yastika and Smriti, I feel would be a better combination. Of course, that's my personal opinion. What do you make of this?
While that is an interesting way of looking at it, I believe the kind of role that Richa has played, through her years in cricket, like for the Bengal side as well, she comes in at 5 and 6. Even her elevation to number three was quite kind of surprising today. One that we did not see coming. But I think before she's elevated to that opener's role, I think we really need to give her a go in that middle order, especially 3-4, and then see if that elevation is needed at the top of the order. I believe this comment could be stemming from the fact that you might want to have that right-left combo at the top of the order. And if you have Yastika and Smriti, that is in the case that Shefali is ruled out. So, you'd want to have this type of a mix and match. But I think elevating Richa right to the opener slot may not be the most ideal thing, right? Because at least the team management has given her that signal that, hey, we want you to be someone who builds that inning, especially with Amol Majumdar right now. I think, we've seen the kind of attacking mindset he brings. And I think because we lost an early wicket, he wanted to get in Richa because you see, right, how the power play may, you just have like 4 fielders outside. So if you get someone like a Richa, you get quick runs as well. And she gets that confidence that, hey, the management believes that I can construct the innings and I can be that person at number 3 as well. So for now, I think number 3 seems like a good slot for her, and opening may seem not on the cards at the moment.
Interesting. Show me again. I won't ask you about Richa. I'll ask you about a certain Mumbaiker who came in at number 4 today, who was fantastic, to be honest. That, I mean, it was a very good knock. And again, like I've maintained before as well. Jemmy is the only player of spin in the Indian lineup, according to me. The only player. I'm not even saying good, bad, ugly, none of that. The only player of spin we have. I was so good to watch her today because she was, again, the way she paced her innings, that in particular really blew my mind. There were hardly any dots or any doubts in her mind. Okay, I thought that was going to be a misspelled word by me, but okay, not bad, not bad. But show me, yeah, in terms of how she paced her innings and how she was able to rotate the strike consistently. Happy with that knock, especially given the context of how the innings sort of played out. 182 for 7. From there, we went on to make 282. Not a bad performance, right?
Absolutely not. And you can see the smile on Neha's face. She has been Neha's X Factor player for the day. So I think she definitely did a great job in fulfilling Neha's, wishes of being really that kind of a player. But yeah, considering this was Wankhede, her home ground, of course, it was her day to shine, and she shown like what prowess she brings upon. It felt like she was just carrying her form from the tests into the ODIs. It was just that seamless. What really struck me there was, of course, the Jemmy R today. The R stands for rescue and rebuild. And here, of course, the way she kind of built up the partnerships with each of Yastika, Deepti, Amanjot, all 35, 36, 40 run odd partnerships. But that's actually something which took give in India the entire foundation. We were probably 90 odd for 4 at a point of time. From there, even to go to a 180 odd for 7 when actually Pooja had joined in. I think that foundation was actually laid down by Jemimah. And pretty rightfully so. I mean, she has been a star in terms of our batting lineup. She's someone that everyone looks up to. She has been the highest run getter in the ODI, in the 3 ODIs that we have played in this particular year. So very rightly so, Jemai going all the way. And then of course when she faltered in the 47th over, already she had done the job that she was supposed to do. A little bit of the hiccup in terms of, or a little bit of sadness, because she again didn't get to that very coveted century which we all have been waiting for. But yeah, that'll come in no time.
That'll definitely come in no time there. And just a correction on my part, of course, she came in at number 5. Harmanpreet, of course, came in at number 4. But Neha, again, in terms of, how we went about our business, we'd spoken about batting depth also being the hallmark of this new India setup, so to say. And today as well, the lineup that they'd come up with was very surprising. A couple of very interesting choices. But we had someone like a Sneh Rana also, slated to come in at number 8, as low as number 8. Do you think that sort of helped with, how we played today? Because again, 182 for 7, say 282 for 8 is not an easy path to sort of traverse, and India was able to do that with great aplomb. Again, kudos to Jemmy and of course Pooja as well. We will talk in detail about Pooja's knock, but in terms of how this 11 is now structuring, happy with how this is.
Absolutely. As an Indian fan, you couldn't want more, right? Having a solid batting depth. And I think today, with the manner in which we were playing, we lost those early wickets. We saw how the batters couldn't really apply themselves. Case in point, Harmanpreet Kaur, going for that shot that was kind of not necessary at that time. But I felt like today's batting hinged largely on how Jemimah played, right? Like she really soaked in the pressure. She anchored the innings during that time, because we were seeing how she's going run a ball, getting those crucial boundaries here and there, and even stitching those crucial partnerships for that matter. And I think that's where even, it puts into perspective how having a batting deep lineup really helps put, a score on board like that. Because at one stage we were like 7 wickets down, and then eventually, going to 282. It really shows that if you have a solid batter in hand and you have other, lower order batters coming into play, it really puts a lot of confidence ki, we're putting up a good total. And this is apparently India's highest total versus Australia, surpassing that 281 we made in 2017 when Harmanpreet Kaur went all guns blazing with her knock of 171. But today, was a very good score of 282. And that largely can be credited to the way the lower order batted. And I think you will bring this point of Pooja Vastrakar as well. But I think it was the partnerships and having that solid batter in between, in this case, Jemimah, that really helped India's prospects and helped put, this total on board.
Fair enough. And again, talking about another player with a certain Mumbai connect, Pooja Vastrakar, fantastic performance with the bat. Show me, because we know that she's got potential in terms of her hitting abilities, something that we sort of not really seen this year, because that's what we'd expected in the WPL as well. But clearly the top order of that Mumbai Indians lineup, ensured that Pooja was never really required. And later on the Bangladesh series, we didn't see much of her. We didn't see anything of her, to be honest. Much of her, kya bol raha hu main. And yeah, right now we're seeing this kind of a knock really plays a big role, and it sort of really motivates the entire lineup, right? Because having that kind of a cushion, having someone like a Pooja coming in at number 7, and then someone like a Sneha Rana coming in at number 8, really allows your top order to play with more freedom, right?
Absolutely, and she has been absolutely stellar in the lower order. I was just digging up some stats, and this was her fourth 50 in playing in at number 8 or at a lower position, which is probably the only, and she's probably the only one to do so. So that kind of shows what she brings onto that lower order. But beyond all of that, beyond all that power hitting, etc., the kind of shots that she played today, I think those were very beautiful shots. I mean, she started off with a couple of boundaries. Then, of course, the six that she hit, it was a straight hit, and almost like it was a straight arrow kind of shooting out. So it was absolutely beautiful to watch. Then she hit another one. Then there was this one reverse scoop, which was just so much a treat to watch. So yeah, I think the kind of shot making that she did, which just shows that she has a lot of batting capability. She's not just that kind of a just come and hit kind of a player. And of course, the way she took up the responsibility from a 182 for 7 to take India to a 280 odd, I think that shows a lot.
Fair enough. Almost spoke there on mute. Thankfully, not to be the case. We've spoken a lot about how India's batters fared in that first innings. Let's talk a bit about the Australian bowling lineup as well. Neha, let's start with you. What caught your eye? Because again, I'd spoken about wanting to watch Darcy Brown and how she goes about her business. They had a lot of spinners. They had a couple of wrist spinners as well, unlike the Indian lineup, who of course were playing with no wrist spinners. Happy with what you saw of this again, because this is when I say experienced lineup, we know practically every player who's playing in this Aussie 11. They might not have really played in India much before, but we've seen them in different leagues. So given that, happy with how this bowling lineup is for the Aussies, and how do you rate their performance today?
I think the Aussie bowlers really had a good day today, because I agree, they had a bad start with Darcy Brown giving a lot of those no balls, and you could continuously hear that siren go like with the no balls and everything. I felt India could have done a lot more with the free hits, but that's another point to discuss. But again, coming back to the Aussie bowling, I think Darcy Brown gave them like a great start, and with Megan Shute at the other end, they were really complementing each other well. And even though there were phases where they got those wickets and they could see India solidify, you had your proactive Alisa Healy coming in with those changes, right? That's where Georgia Warren came in. The leg spinning difference between India and Australia, she struck with crucial wickets every single time. And although Australia is a side that's blessed with so many all-rounders, we see how these bowlers always end up coming to the party and delivering. Because I think when Talia Meghra bowled a couple of overs, yet they have a lot of depth in their bowling as well, which kind of keeps the Indian batters guessing, because you don't know who is coming next. As the skipper is always ideating on who can be this person who can get you those wickets, or stifle runs from one end. So all in all, I think they will be pleased with their bowling performance, because the Wankhede conditions by themselves were always going to favor the batters, and we were expecting a total in excess of 270, right? So it wasn't surprising that they conceded 282, but it's the mindset they have. They know we will chase any total. We just have to get our mind set to chase that. And yeah, that's pretty much, I think, what unfolded today.
I don't think there's a better way of sort of understanding how well placed Australia is in terms of the number of bowling options they have, because they used 7 bowlers today, and Elise Perry wasn't one of them. And I was like, bhai, matlab, I know Australia don't really use a lot of Elise Perry's bowling in general. That's been a trend for them. But even then, 7 bowler use करने के बाद भी अगर आपको Elise Perry की जरूरत ना पड़ रही है, तो भाई मतलब you're getting something right for sure, and this speaks volumes about the kind of depth they have in that lineup. Show me in terms of the second innings. Now coming to that, we of course had expected that this is going to be a sort of a match that will be more favorable to Australia, because they will be chasing and not really defending a total right now, and chasing is something that really sort of suits their kind of batting a lot. So we knew that India had to score a really above par total. which was to be the case in some sense. 282 wasn't by any stretch of imagination a low total. But how would you sort of, go about dissecting this Indian bowling? Because if you look at the top, Renuka Thakur, of course, started off really well, got that early wicket as well, thanks to Sneha Rana's brilliant catch there. But after that, Pooja Vastrakar from the other end, again, a bit too inconsistent for your liking.
Yes, absolutely. I think the Indian bowlers have definitely let us down. The only high point being the in this entire second innings was Healy's wicket. But beyond that, I think the Pooja Vastrakar did come to the party, but it was pretty much later in the innings when almost everything was done and dusted. Also, the way, I mean, you will have to give it to the way Ellis Perry was batting. She was, we could see that glimpse of that Maxwell innings in Ellis Perry, if I may say so. She was getting all the cramps, but in spite of that, that one leg six that she kind of played. So I think they were just playing so clinically, and the batters had so much of intent that the bowlers definitely did fall short. Of course, the batting became much more easier at the towards the fag end of the innings, but I think that was probably by the time Australia almost have had their leg at the win. So I wouldn't blame the conditions too much, but Indian bowlers have a lot to take away from this. And if we could not defend a 282, it was definitely a above par total. Then some amount of rethinking definitely needs to be done. Also, as we have spoken before earlier, maybe a leg spinner can be a great addition. So we need to look into all those aspects before we go into the next match.
Definitely. And Neha, just coming to you there, a sort of, a sore bone, so to say, for India has been, that new ball partner for Renuka Thakur. They've tried plenty of options. We saw a lot of options being tried in the last 12 to 18 months. Pooja Vastrakar, of course, has been probably the most standout performer of that pool, of the talent pool that's sort of been used. But even then, we saw even in the test match that was recently concluded, the first innings, she was fantastic. Second innings, again, went for a few. Even today, she went for a few. How do you look at this? Because if we take Swapnil's question here, he also asks us something related to that. Who do you think could be a potential replacement for someone like a Jhulan Goswami in the Indian women's setup, considering the current challenges in finding a suitable successor to partner with Renuka again? Who do you think, like, do you have any other names apart from, whoever's existing right now in the squad, or do you think Pooja is probably the person to do that?
Okay, so I'll try to break this question up. So to answer the Pooja Vastrakar aspect of it, although she is a gifted all-rounder, I'm going to give her that. But I feel like to be that opening ball partner with Renuka Singh Thakur is a bit of an overstretch. Like, she was brilliant in the test, not taking anything away from that. But in this match, she just seemed off with her length. And I felt, I think I brought this in our discussion off record as well, of how, she conceded a lot of runs early on, which kind of, gave that advantage to Australia in that run chase. So although like Renuka was, controlling runs from one end, but the other end, Pooja was just leaking runs, which was quite costly for Team India. And we see, how Australia constructed that run chase to absolute perfection, right? Now, to answer your question of who could be possible replacements, now, ever since Jhulan Goswami retired, India has been looking at that premier pace bowling option, specialist pace bowling option who can, fill the shoes of her. And we have had, the likes of Meghna Singh, don that role, but it's not, worked out well. This also kind of shows how the management has not been consistent with their selections. I think we saw during that T20 series versus Australia, a few months back, we had the likes of Anjali Sarwan, the left arm pacer who came in. Why wasn't she given a longer rope, right? She did get crucial wickets in that series. I know she was slightly on the expensive end, but again, that was like the T20 side of things. But I felt like the fact that we don't give a longer rope to some of these newer bowlers who are coming into the setup, that can actually be very challenging, because how do you then decide who can be this ideal replacement, right? Like, even I think in our preview, we spoke about how Titus Sadhu can be slotted in. Like, she's being looked as this potential successor to Jhulan Goswami. But when are we going to give her the go? You can't probably just get her in the second ODI as a, band-aid replacement to Pooja Vastrakar. So that's again not trusting your players enough. So first we need to have a lot more matches so that we can figure out who can be this ideal candidate who can fill this role. But right now I believe we have a lot of candidates in mind. It's just about giving them the right opportunities and not using them as this replacement option or like a short-term measure. You have to give them the longer rope. And I think you need to believe in them. So looking at it in this way is certainly going to help India.
Fair enough. And show me, when I come to you, I'll of course talk about your X Factor player as well, Saika Ishaq. Her debut today, probably not the greatest in terms of the numbers and how it went. Sports fan here being a bit too harsh. He says horrible debut for Saika. एक ही match हुआ है. Let's sort of let's sort of wait yeah, before we sort of jump to conclusions. But again, how would you rate her performance? How do you think she went about her business today?
I think it definitely wasn't the top class that we have expected from her, considering her credentials, her experience overall in the in the domestic scenario. So we definitely expect a lot from her. But yeah, as we just spoke right before this, that the way the Australians were batting, I think it was difficult to kind of stand up to that kind of a bowling, for that kind of a batting for a debutant. So yeah, we have to give it to give a lot to Ellis Perry and Litchfield for the kind of for the way they kind of made this chase look so easy and effortless. Uh, and yes, Indian bowling had fallen short, and so has Saika, but hopefully she comes back well in the next one. And as Neha mentioned, that we should give sufficient amount of opportunities. This has been a problem always with the Indian management. We need to see certain amount of change there to kind of figure out who's the right option for us. Yeah.
Fair enough. And again, talking about the next game as well, briefly. First of all, pardon my ignorance, but was it sort of confirmed what happened to Smriti? Why was she unavailable for the game today? No
She was
update
just, it
whatsoever.
was just no. I just read a few articles. It was like she's unwell, so it might not be any injury. It might be just something. Also, it was very hot and humid today, as we saw. So might have been something around, just a little
True.
unwell.
I mean, Jemmy herself was struggling there. It's definitely not easy to bat under such conditions. But yeah, again, sticking to how the second innings went about, we know this Australian lineup. After that, early wicket of Elisa, I was actually a bit sort of happy and excited. Okay, you know what? Probably there's an opening there. We can probably try and pry that door open and make our way in. Not to be the case, because the next four batters ensured none of that was happening. Who in particular really caught your eye in that? Because again, all of these are no names. It's not like we are coming across someone new. सबको पता है कौन है तालिया मेगरा, सबको पता है कौन है एलिस पेरी. Everyone knows all of these names. Beth Mooney, Phoebe Litchfield, all of them. But who caught your eye in particular today?
So for me, it definitely has to be Phoebe Litchfield, right? The kind of year she's had, making her debut, and the story she's had, to reach where she's has been phenomenal. And today's knock of 78 really was a testament to all the struggles she's had over the years. And we've seen her, as a consistent performer in the domestic circuit and in the test match as well. When she got out for a diamond duck, it was kind of sad. I mean, we could have seen her probably, stitch a big partnership and score those crucial runs for Australia. But I think here we got like a proper exhibition of the kind of player she is, right? So in that sense, I was pretty impressed to see how she really, broke that entire target into small total, stitched that partnership with Ellis Perry, because Australia is that kind of team, right? They just do not go into a panic state at all, because that's the kind of faith they have in their players, which really showed. And Phoebe Litchfield is just 20 years old, mind you, and at this age, she's already, breaking records and scoring runs at ease against what can be a challenging Indian bowling lineup, right? So yeah, I think it's for me, she was definitely the biggest positive from today's run chase.
Interesting. Shubha, meanwhile, says, whenever I look at Jemmy, I feel so proud. She's just 22, but I still feel the sense of responsibility and maturity that she shows. She shows is incredible. For a second, I was taken aback. Wait, what? Jemmy's 22? Because I know she made a debut like 6 years ago. What's happening? But yeah, of course, yeah, she didn't make a debut, when she was 16 or 17? Geez, man, we think, अपने को inferiority complex होता है ऐसे देखे कि भाई क्या चल रहा है, what are we doing right now? But yeah, that's definitely the kind of player she's been, and yeah, let's really hope that she sort of serves the Indian cricket a long way going forward. Show me in terms of the second innings once again. Lot of bowling options were used by India as well, but to no avail. We'd spoken in brief during the preview about a leg spinner or the lack of it in this Indian women's lineup could probably be a bone of contention and something that they can look to fix going forward. Do you think that sort of came in today, like that issue sort of came into picture today, was amplified a bit more today?
Definitely, yes. Especially when somebody chases up such a big total with so much of ease and in your own backyard, these kind of things definitely come glaring up, and that it was no different today. But yeah, I am still so much awed by the batting. I just can't take my eyes off anything out there. So yeah, that's definitely a part of it. But yes, maybe a good leg spinner would do a little bit of a trick, and if at all they can fix that gaping hole.
Fair enough. I mean, it's almost time to sort of wrap this review up. But before that, just one final question for both of you. Neha, let's start with you. What do you think was the one turning point of today's game? Because of course there were plenty of moments, there were plenty of times when it sort of ebbed and flowed. It seemed like okay, the game is in India's favor now. No, it went back to Australia. But yeah, in the second half of the second innings, we could pretty much see Australia just coasting through. But if you had to pick a turning point, what would it be?
Okay, I mean, this is a tricky one. Still thinking, but I think there was this point where India, I think, reviewed for Elise Perry's dismissal. It was kind of a sweep shot that hit her glove. I felt like if India capitalized on that moment and actually got the wicket, the run chase might have panned out very differently. So I think India not being able to get those timely wickets the way Australia did early on in India's batting could have actually been a big problem. And also India's fielding, right? I mean, we saw how Sneh Rana took that electric catch. I mean, it was an absolute screamer to dismiss Lisa Healy. But after that, somewhere in the field, I started feeling like the heat was getting to them, and they were just not able to, make the most of it. So I think it was a collection of all these small moments that kind of resulted in us losing. So I'd attribute it to not getting those timely wickets that was a very big difference between India and Australia.
Fair enough. Show me, what about you? Any particular turning moment that comes to your mind?
I think as soon as we got Healy early, definitely all our eyes lit up, and we thought that maybe this is the window that we can use. But Perry came in, and I think in the next over, she hit for a 4 and a 6, so that kind of changed the momentum. But yeah, as Neha mentioned, we were a little unlucky at certain spaces to not have capitalized the big moments, especially also the one where the Snehrana took a catch of her own bowling, so it was a cotton bowled like attempt, but it had just bounced a little before. So I think that was a little unlucky. But yeah, if those things would have turned in our favor, we would have had a much different contest. It would have at least looked a little difficult. Australia might have taken it, considering that they have a really strong batting lineup. But yeah, it would have been a much better contest. Is what we were thinking at that point of time, and that's where we might as well look forward in the next one.
Yeah, definitely not the greatest of feelings for sure. It's one of those bittersweet moments where you wish India had probably crossed the line. It would have been great to watch. Unfortunately, not to be the case. We can always be hopeful. India will be playing the second ODI in Mumbai, of course, against Australia on the 28th. Not 28th. 28th is today. It's the 30th of December, the second last day of the year. And again, not to worry, guys. We've got you covered. We will be previewing and reviewing all the both the remaining ODIs. And of course, we'll also be having watch-alongs for all the T20Is. So yeah, please keep sort of watching the space to sort of get your, not daily dose, but definitely all your live match analysis and content for sure. So it is time to wrap up this review right now. Thank you so much, Neha. Thank you so much, Shomi. It's time to bid a goodbye. Let's hope India win the second ODI, and let's hope we are in for a proper battle during the third ODI in 2024. That'll be great to watch. That'll be a great way to start a new year, of course. So yeah, fingers crossed something like that happens. Until then, a good night to all of you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.